Hi there, we're going to demonstrate resampling into Maschine from Ableton Live, I think. So we've got a few key cuts from a Hazardous Funk track called Chasing Oblivion, and we're going to resample them into Maschine. Ready for the gig. We got, and then there's my little horn lines, which go something like this. And then I've got some steam that I've got going on in the background, which just adds a little bit of tickle to the back of the ears behind the beat. And then we've got a bass line that sits underneath all that. Yeah. So once we've had a little mess around with volume levels, I want the brass to sit underneath the loop a little bit. And the steam wants to be fairly quiet. Okay, so that's a rough mix levels wise of a load of things I want to mash together into Maschine. First thing we want to do is make an instant of Maschine, which we're dragging into a fresh track. Then while that is coming in, we have a sip of our cup of tea, or whatever your beverage is. Okay, let's move that aside for a second. Now notice the outputs at the moment are set to master on Ableton Live, so we're going to change those to Maschine. You won't get an instant of Maschine until you've actually put a Maschine in. I know that sounds an obvious thing to say, but it's amazing what you forget when you're overtired and it's been a long day. And it's naturally gone to Maschines 1 and 2 ins. So now it's time to go to Maschine and set the input of Maschine. So let's open our Maschine. Let's go to our sample window. So we're going to set that to external, which means outside of Maschine. Internal is for sampling within Maschine. Say if you've already made a beat in here and you want to sample it to a new group, 1 and 2. Detection, we're not going to use detection for our sample bit because we know this is a particular beat. And we're only going to sample the first bar for simplicity. So we're going to say 1 bar. So it's sync 1 bar. So we hit start before we wish to sample. But before we do that, let's play our beat a bit and check we are not clipping. We can't hear our beat at the moment. But if we wish to hear it, right down here where it says map on the computer screen, you'll see a monitoring button. So if I start that. Okay, and it is maybe clipping just a tad. So I'll just move that aside for a second and we'll just pop down the levels ever so slightly on our mixer. So let's see what that is. We've got a bit of headroom now. We're ready to hit start, and it's waiting for Ableton, so it's just a matter of starting Ableton. And because we set it to 1 bar, it has stopped at the end of 1 bar. So now we want to slice this up, unless we see now it's playing on that 1 beat. And at the moment its mode is split, but we could have grid, split, or detect is my favourite. And then we adjust the sensitivity. I mean, with this sort of thing, with brass in there as well, this is not going to detect that well. So we're going to need to use our skills here. We wish to edit this cut, so we want the edit on the right hand side. Hit edit. And now we can add an extra shot point, so that's better. Now what I would like to do here is edit the start point, and then check the one before, because you sometimes find a little clip at the end. But that's 2-1, so we want to add there. And there's 2 there, so we add there. I mean, that's deliberately a bit fat. There we are. We're happy with our cuts. We can now drop back out of edit, and we can hit apply to. I tend to choose apply to rather than apply, and I've said this before. This is so that it puts it on a new group, so that we can still always revert to our original group. Apply to, and then we choose a new group. And now a Maschine beat will play the first bar over and over again. I intend to use this to trigger rather than actually play a loop, because I was after being able to drop these beats in while the original beat is playing. So just for simplicity, I'm going to hit pattern and just go to a fresh pattern. I tend to always keep pattern 16 empty. So now when I hit go, nothing plays. Now if I play my original loop from back within Ableton Live, so I can play just the bass line for instance for a sec, and I can trigger bits of this. Make life a bit more interesting, we could go you have to go module. Let's open Maschine again. I like seeing it on the screen whilst I'm doing stuff, and I personally feel that you should use the strengths of both. Some things are best used on the Maschine surface. Sometimes it's easier to just go here and put a plugin on here. I think we might even put a bit of verb on that. So this has now become more of an effect. Okay. And then once you've got it in Maschine, there's no limit to what you can do. Oh, and just as an afterthought, I'm assigning to macros. So I've got a little group in here. I'm going to assign the pitch to macro 1. And then strangely, I'm going to be really cheeky and I'm going to put a filter after all our effects. I'm going to assign the filter close off point to that. That just means you'll be able to close down the delay, which is feedback amount. Assign to 3. And then mix to assign to. You've seen what I'm doing. I'm assigning the macros within here. So when we go to group, take off these other views, otherwise you don't get to group buttons properly. You'll now see tune, cut, amount, mix on our loop, which now shows. Now, if I wanted to play that loop, let's just turn all the other loops off. If we wanted to play the loop as we've cut it up, let's go back to pattern 1. Remember I changed to pattern 16? Now that'll play. And there we go. Put the original beat back in now with our new. You get the gist. Anyway, more to follow. I hope the macro bit wasn't a bit fast. Time to finish my cup of tea.